Welcome everyone. As you're coming in, we'll just give everyone a few seconds to get connected. We welcome you and look forward to sharing information with you regarding our rising seventh graders. So if you have a sixth grade student currently, you are in the right place because they will be seeing a lot of these ladies in the upcoming year. We are so glad to have you all joining us. We have several more people who are joining us. We'll just give everyone a few seconds to connect. My name is Heather Parrish, and I'm one of the directors at Lotus and Ivy, and I'm so thrilled to welcome everyone to this meeting. Today we have Ms. Sophia Nicholson and Ms. Tesia Brown, who are two seventh grade teachers at Lotus and Ivy. Both Waldorf trained, wonderful teachers. Your students will love them. And so we are going to have them talk about our main lesson curriculum, and then we will take any questions that you all have after they are speaking. Now, if you have questions that are burning, please feel free to put those in the chat if you want to, so that you don't lose it. We will take the questions at the end, and they will try to incorporate answers to the questions if they are put into the chat. All right, well, without further ado, I will go ahead and turn things over to Miss Sophia Nicholson.
All right, so lovely to see you all here today. And excuse me. So I'll be teaching the very first Class 7 main lesson, which is the Renaissance, and followed by quite a few other Class 7 main lessons. I also teach perspective drawing and geography of Africa and Europe, and also creative writing. So there's so much that comes in Class 7, which is really new and exciting, and topics and approaches to learning which the student is meeting for the first time. So really, you're going to see so much more independence from your child. There's proper essay writing that will be coming in the Renaissance. I mean, the Renaissance is such a wonderful topic to start the year with, really seeing things, the rebirth of classical knowledge and the laws of discovery or rediscovery of the laws of perspective. Just as this happened in the Renaissance Italy, this is also happening to our 12 to 13-year-old students. They're coming out of the dream world of childhood and starting to see life, see the world with a new objectivity. They really want to see what's true, what's untrue, what really happened, looking at things in a kind of very clear, sharp way. This main lesson really meets them, looking at how the modern consciousness came to being, and they are also coming into that more grown-up way of perceiving the world compared to younger years. So this is a wonderful time to look through the geniuses of art history, and this will be continuing in the perspective drawing main lesson, which comes in December, in which they get the chance to put these laws of perspective into practice for themselves. So they will have learned all the theory, the historical background, wonderful works of art created according to these rules, and then they get a chance to actually practice it. As well as this, they'll be getting more independent study skills, such as taking notes. I'll ask them to, try and take notes every day for main lessons like the Renaissance, also for geography. Not so much for perspective drawing and creative writing as different sorts of skills, but this is going to be something which stands them in good stead, not only in Class 7, but for Class 8 and their high school years and beyond. And this is something that I'm not expecting them to be fantastic at it to begin with, but it's great if they can just do the regular practice, and I'll maybe ask them a sample of notes to be turned in. I won't grade them. I just want to see how they're doing. So along with the fact that they're becoming more awake in their thinking, they're also losing that amazing memory that a young child has of just listening to a story and then it's all just there. It's all just there the next day, as I'm sure we might have seen with our 7-year-old students or children. It just goes in, drink it all in, and it's just there. And then somehow, adolescence comes along. where's it gone? It's gone. But it doesn't, that's normal and it's natural. And that's why this is the time to start thinking, how can I write down my ideas? Because there's going to be more information. And we, as you know, this is something we as adults do, or when we're at college, we will be doing this, recording our ideas and then thinking about them, reflecting on them when we come to write essays. So great skills, also fantastic drawing opportunities, looking at how did those Renaissance artists come to do those fantastic drawings? Was it all just genius, or was there some careful planning? A bit of both, perhaps. But they'll get the chance to try out some of these techniques so that they don't just think, oh, I just draw an amazing picture. And I think, okay, let's use a grid. Let's plan it all. It's quite mathematical, actually. So it's bringing, both sides of the brain together in a really enlivening and exciting way. This is going to be a new approach to drawing. It's very objective, what goes in this square, what goes in this square, and then I'm going to have very good proportions and very good shapes. And using pastels for the first time in a very, teach them how to reproduce a Renaissance masterpiece to the best of their ability. But that'll be a big project, which will have plenty of time to work on. So we go moving on to perspective drawing, looking at learning the laws of perspective, practice, from the simple to building up, more and more every day, every week. Eventually, they'll be designing their own cityscape using lots of different techniques, maybe staircases, maybe arches, looking at how to draw windows, different types of windows in perspective, interiors, exteriors. Following that, we have the geography of Europe and Africa. So as you know, going up through the grades, we start with the close, local geography, then it's national, then maybe the continent, then it's further afield. So as the child grows, the perspectives broaden and widen, and they become interested in this wider world. And having studied the Renaissance, we're looking at what's happening in Florence, in the city-state of Florence, is where it all comes to life to begin with. So the atlas, say we're going to start Europe. We can start with Europe. And what do we see? There's in the atlas that the students have to buy, first page of the atlas from the Europe chapter, it's a picture of Florence, and they think, they feel like they've been there already. It's amazing. And so anyway, it really, we're looking at more geographical skills, objectivity, longitude, latitude, looking at for how to find places and looking at all the contrasts. We have this, adolescence is starting, and we're looking for we're going to one extreme, we're going to another extreme. So even within a continent, Europe, for example, you've got very cold areas near the North Pole, into the Arctic Circle, excuse me. And then you've got areas which are very hot. You've got mountainous areas. You've got very low-lying areas. So we're looking at all these polarities, all these extremes, which is really, meeting the children's needs to understand the diversity, the difference. We're making connections between different areas, but also looking at how are they different. And then a very different continent, Africa, but even within Africa as well, there's so much variety and diversity. Cities, traditional cultures, the great rivers of Africa, the lakes, and then we look at the state of South Africa, and that is quite an eye-opener for many of them. And then the final block that I teach of the year is what I'm just doing at the moment, which is creative writing. Wish, wonder, and surprise are the three kind of focuses that we have for the creative writing. And this is the first time that the students are really going to be asked to write out of themselves, not recalling their main lesson content, the stories. They would have done their own writing before, but it's not something where I say it's coming from you. It's not from a story I've told you. I might give you let's read a poem or let's read a story to just look at some different techniques, get a bit of inspiration, but it's down to you. It's down to you because it's as the procreative powers start to awaken in the human being, that's when the creative powers start to come to life in the child also. So this is perfect for this age. And really, this opens their eyes. I didn't know I could do that. And they start to write things that they never would have imagined they would be able to. So a really significant year, very, very much transition from younger, more childhood, younger childhood, being given the material and reproducing it in a wonderful way, to having to work more independently and produce work out of themselves. So I'm really looking forward to teaching another group of Class 7 students. And over to you maybe now, Ms. Brown.
Yes, I will get Miss Brown spotlighted so we can have her share now.
Thank you. So I am Miss Brown, and I actually this coming year have this really wonderful opportunity where I see these 7th graders twice, once at the beginning of the year and once right at the end of the year. And that has been the case the last couple of years, and it's been really wonderful to see how much the children have grown by the time I see them again at the second half of the year. And so I'm excited to be with a new group. And I'm sure see this big change that occurs through the help of Miss Nicholson and their other teachers. They really grow in their abilities through this 7th grade year. And so at the beginning of the year, I do teach their second block, and it is their physics block. And in physics in 7th grade, it is, again, this sort of transition year in the sense that in 6th grade, they've spent a lot of time observing, and in 7th grade, they're not as satisfied with just observing things. They want to know how things happen. They want to know how things work. And so we ask that question a lot in 7th grade physics. Well, how did that happen? And so we're using this ability that Waldorf education has really developed through all of these years, these amazing abilities to observe. And we're taking these abilities to observe that the students have and using those to then come to the answers. How is this happening? How does light work? How does sound work? And so this is a question that comes again and again. Now, if your child is in the 6th grade this year with Lotus and Ivy, they will have covered 4 primary topics in physics, and we revisit those 4 topics again, and those are acoustics, light or optics, and then we also do heat, electricity, and in 7th grade we add a 5th topic, and that is mechanics. And so if your child is brand new to Waldorf or brand new to Lotus and Ivy, that's so fine. We still do a review and treat it as if the child is brand new to the class, but we do take this further step and we ask this new question, this how question. And this physics class is a very hands-on class. Waldorf sciences tend to be very hands-on. You want the child to actually have the experiences. And so in each of these 5 areas that I cover, I generally do some smaller experiments, but then there also is a larger project or a larger experiment for each of those different topics. And so, for instance, in acoustics, we make something called a monochord, and we do a lot of experiments with the monochord. When we move on to optics, we make kaleidoscopes, and we do some experimenting with these kaleidoscopes. And so in each of these areas, we have sort of this bigger project which guides some of our exploration that we do, along with some smaller experiments as well. And then at the end of the year, we jump into chemistry. So they've had all these wonderful teachers. It sounds like Miss Nicholson has this group a lot, which is so wonderful. And so we suddenly are back in the sciences right at the end of the year. And in chemistry, this is such a fun exploration. It's actually the first Waldorf block in chemistry is in the 7th grade, so they actually haven't taken it yet, this class. It's their first time that they get to experience chemistry in the Waldorf school directly. And the students get to really observe how transformation occurs in nature. That's really the focus of this chemistry class, is transformation and how chemical transformation occurs in the world around us. And so we study things like combustion, how fire can change something. We study acids and bases and this relationship between acids and bases and how they relate, how you find a balance between the two. We study the Lime cycle. We study crystallization. All of these areas that are in our natural world. And in many cases, it is really about the extremes and also then finding the center, the middle. And this is really reflective of what is going on within the 7th grader in their inner life. They really are having these very extreme emotions, extreme inner experiences, and then they're having to find this center, this place where they can be themselves in center rather than in these extreme circumstances. And so I love this chemistry course because it really does speak to where the 7th grader is in their inner development as well. And so that is how the 7th grader gets to close out the year, which is really fun and wonderful.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Do we have any questions at this time for our teachers? Well, it seems they did a wonderful job of explaining then, if we don't have any questions. Are there any questions with regards to registration or any administrative questions that I may help anyone with? Okay, all right, fantastic. Well, if there are no questions, Ms. Nicholson, was there anything else that you wanted to add that may have come to mind after Ms. Brown spoke?
I don't think so. I think it kind of covered everything. I was just really struck from what you were saying, Ms. Brown, how even though you're teaching different subjects, it's all really fits perfectly, doesn't it, into the picture of a 7th grader. So even though it's very different, you can see that the same kind of impulse is there behind whatever, even what I might be doing in geography or in creative writing. In chemistry, it's the same, like explosion, what's going on, objectivity, discovery, because they also do the age of exploration, don't they, with another teacher. I can't remember who's teaching that next year, but it's another of our faculty. And so it's really yeah, I'm always struck by the beauty of the curriculum and how harmoniously integrated it is. And particularly because I haven't taught chemistry for a while, I was just reminded. I thought, oh wow, yes, of course, it just makes so perfect sense for this age. Not really for class 6 so much, or for class 8 to start, but class 7. It's just the right time, and so that's a wonderful way to end the year. So yeah, you're about to do that in the week after next, aren't you, with current class 7, I think? Yes, because I'm just teaching in current class 7. We're finishing up our Wish, Wonder and Surprise creative writing, having a lot of fun with so many different types of poetry, prose and all sorts of things. And then they're going to have, I'm sure they're going to have great fun with you, Ms. Brown, in the last few weeks of the school year.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here and for listening to what our teachers had to share about your impending 7th grader. If you have any questions at all, you can always feel free to email us at lotusandivyvirtualclasses@gmail.com or you can give us a call. Our phone number is on our email, but I'm happy to share it here. It's 321-866-6860. Thank you to our teachers for sharing today, and thank you all for being here. Hope you all have a great rest of your day and a wonderful weekend. Take care.